In October 2015, the city of Orlando was rocked by a shocking and tragic crime that left the community reeling. Sasha Samsudean, a vibrant 27-year-old with a promising future, was discovered brutally murdered in her apartment. What began as a carefree night out with friends spiraled into a nightmare, leaving her loved ones devastated and desperate for answers. Sasha was celebrated for her infectious smile, generous spirit, and unwavering zest for life. A dedicated young professional with a heart for helping others, her radiant presence could brighten any room. However, beneath the facade of her seemingly perfect evening lay a harrowing encounter that would culminate in a senseless act of violence. As detectives diligently worked to unravel the events of Sasha's final hours, a disturbing narrative of betrayal and brutality emerged. Her case not only propelled her family and friends into a passionate quest for justice, but also underscored the critical importance of safety and vigilance in our daily lives. Sasha's story is a powerful reminder of the fragility of life and the urgent need to protect one another in an unpredictable world. Sasha Samsudin, born on July 4, 1988 in New York to her loving parents Tara and Ken Samsudin, grew up surrounded by warmth and laughter in Orlando, Florida. From an early age, she radiated a charm that made her beloved by everyone who crossed her path. Described as kind-hearted and full of life, Sasha had an extraordinary ability to connect with people, earning her admiration from friends, neighbors, and family alike. After graduating from the University of Florida, she channeled her vibrant personality and sharp intellect into a career at 407apartments.com, a real estate company specializing in Orlando apartment rentals. Known affectionately as the Cupid of apartment hunting, Sasha's profile within the company remains a glowing tribute to her dedication, humor, and unparalleled expertise in helping others find their perfect homes. In 2015, Sasha Samsudean made her home at Uptown Condominiums, a modern complex in the heart of Orlando's bustling downtown entertainment district. With 24/7 security cameras and digital key codes for every unit, it seemed like a haven. But even these safeguards couldn't protect her from the danger that lurked within. On the evening of October 16, 2015, 27-year-old Sasha, known for her vibrant social life, began her night filled with excitement and laughter. After attending a soccer game with friends, she headed to one of her favorite Orlando clubs to enjoy the lively atmosphere. Tragically, what began as a carefree evening would take a sinister turn as she unknowingly crossed paths with a predator hiding behind the trust of a uniform. Sasha's final evening began with celebration, laughter, and good company as she cheered on her favorite team's victory. After dinner, dancing, and perhaps one too many drinks, the 27-year-old social media manager for a leading real estate agency said her goodbyes around 12:30 a.m. and set out for home. The walk to her condo should have taken only 10 minutes, but Sasha's tipsy state made the journey more challenging. As she navigated the dimly lit streets, two young women noticed the striking brunette struggling to keep her balance. Concerned for her safety, they approached and asked if she'd like to share an Uber. Grateful for their kindness and knowing she wasn't in the best shape to make it home alone, Sasha accepted their thoughtful offer, not realizing this small moment of goodwill would be one of her last interactions. As the trio waited for the Uber, Sasha's light-hearted demeanor shone through despite her tipsy state, engaging her teenage companions in friendly chatter. Once the car arrived, she directed the driver to the upscale Uptown apartments, confidently announcing that it was her home. When they reached the building, Sasha asked to be dropped off, thanking her companions for their help. However, the two young women, still worried about her safety, insisted on escorting her to the entrance. At the door, Sasha searched her pockets but came up empty-handed. Her keys were nowhere to be found. Flustered and clearly frustrated, she realized she couldn't access the secure complex without them. Hoping for assistance, she approached the security guard on duty, but he firmly explained that without a key or proof of residency, building policy prohibited entry. It seemed for the moment that Sasha was stuck outside, uncertain of her next steps. Amidst the group's deliberations on their next steps, a resident appeared with a key in hand, bringing a spark of hope to the scene. He recognized Sasha, a fellow tenant, and promptly let her in. With a reassuring nod, Stephen Duxbury, the vigilant security guard, assured the kind-hearted Samaritans that he would handle the situation from there. Feeling relieved, they departed, confident that the woman they had supported was now in capable hands. Once inside, the building's numerous surveillance cameras captured the moment Sasha ascended the stairs to her third-floor apartment, with Duxbury trailing closely behind. It soon became apparent that upon arriving at Unit 345, Sasha diligently entered the key code into the door's lockpad, but to her dismay, the mechanism refused to budge. Despite her best efforts to recall the correct sequence, the numbers seemed to escape her mind. The pressure didn't ease as the imposing Duxbury loomed over her shoulder, scrutinizing her every attempt. Sasha suddenly remembered that her keys and the information needed to access her apartment were likely in her car. Not wanting to retrieve them alone, she turned to the security guard, Stephen Duxbury, for help. He agreed to accompany her, and the two made their way toward the parking garage. Midway there, Sasha paused, claiming the code to her apartment had come back to her. With a renewed sense of direction, the pair turned around and re-entered the building, heading for the third-floor staircase. Unfortunately, the security cameras didn't cover the hallways or stairwells, leaving investigators to piece together the events that followed based on Duxbury's account. What happened next would lead to a tragedy that no one could have foreseen. Duxbury claimed that around 3 a.m. he informed Sasha he needed to complete his floor patrols and promised to return shortly. When he came back, the hallway outside apartment 345 was empty. Believing she had managed to access her apartment, he resumed his rounds without concern. The next morning, Sasha was supposed to meet her friend Anthony Roper for breakfast, but she never arrived. Assuming she had overslept, Anthony initially dismissed it and ate alone. However, by early afternoon, concern began to set in when multiple calls to Sasha's phone went unanswered. What started as a minor worry soon escalated into a chilling discovery. Growing increasingly uneasy, Anthony enlisted a few mutual friends to join him in checking on Sasha at her apartment. Upon arriving, they noticed her car parked in its usual spot, with a baby shower gift still inside, a sign that she hadn't left as they had hoped. Determined to ensure her safety, they entered the building and knocked on her door, but received no response. Concerned, they alerted the police to perform a welfare check. When officers arrived, they worked with the building's security guard to override the system and gain access to Sasha's unit. What they found inside was a horrifying scene. On the bed, partially concealed beneath a comforter with one arm exposed, lay Sasha Samsudin. As the officers removed the cover, the true brutality of the attack became chillingly clear. The vibrant young woman had been the victim of an unspeakable act of violence. Homicide detectives swiftly descended upon the scene, met with grim evidence of the brutality Sasha had endured. The torn fabric of her panties, which had lacerated her skin, pointed to a violent sexual assault. Bruises on her face and neck bore witness to a merciless beating, and the unmistakable signs of strangulation revealed her tragic end. Defensive wounds on her hands and arms told the story of her fierce struggle to survive. The medical examiner would later confirm that the pressure applied to her throat had been so intense it fractured her larynx. Adding to the horror, the apartment was saturated with the stinging scent of chemicals, and the open cabinet of cleaning supplies made it clear the killer had attempted to erase his crimes. From the scrubbed-down surfaces to the victim's own body, every effort had been made to obliterate evidence, but the scene remained a chilling testament to the violence Sasha had suffered. Despite his efforts to erase all traces of his presence, the killer had made critical mistakes. A discarded condom wrapper lay on the bedroom floor, a glaring oversight in his attempt at meticulous cleanup. Even more telling, he had used the toilet but neglected to put the seat down, leaving behind 2 unidentified fingerprints underneath it. Investigators also uncovered foreign DNA on Sasha's body, evidence the cleaning agents failed to erase. While Sasha's cell phone was missing, detectives located her synced iPad, which revealed a significant clue. Among her recent activity was a brief message sent at 5:12 a.m. on Saturday, October 17th, to her on-again, off-again boyfriend. The text contained just one word: Ben. This seemingly simple message would add a crucial piece to the puzzle of her tragic final hours. In their quest for answers, the group reached out to neighboring tenants, hoping to uncover any unusual happenings, One particular man, who had been doing laundry in the dead of night, revealed that he had seen Duxbury trailing Sasha through the hallways. Although he found the guards' vigilance somewhat excessive, considering the building was hailed as one of the safest in the city, he hadn't paid it much attention at the time. When detectives delved into the CCTV footage from the previous evening, a clearer picture began to emerge. The timestamp revealed that Sasha had entered the building at 1:46 a.m. Despite appearing a bit intoxicated, she maintained her balance as she navigated through the entrance. However, the most striking detail was the security guard's presence, as he followed her closely in nearly every frame captured thereafter. With this evidence in hand, the detectives realized it was imperative to bring Duxbury in for questioning. Another puzzling detail emerged from the security footage. At 6:36 a.m., over half an hour after his shift had officially ended, Duxbury was captured on camera carrying 2 white drawstring trash bags to the parking garage. Investigators couldn't ignore the striking similarity between these bags and those found in an open box in Sasha's apartment. A review of previous footage from his shifts revealed that he had never taken out trash for any resident before that night. This raised a chilling question. Was Duxbury simply an overly diligent security guard, or was he a predator desperately trying to conceal evidence of his crime? Detectives couldn't shake the feeling that his actions were far more sinister than they first appeared. Just hours after the shocking discovery of the body, Duxbury, who had joined the security team just 5 months prior in May 2015, found himself seated with investigators. When they pressed him for a timeline of his interactions with Sasha, he began recounting the events of that fateful night. He detailed how he had initially turned her away from the building for failing to present a valid ID, only to later abandon her when his duties called him elsewhere. In a surprising twist, Duxbury mentioned that he had spotted Sasha, or someone who closely resembled her, in the hallway later that morning, accompanied by a fair-haired Caucasian male dressed in a polo shirt and casual pants. This detail seemed crucial, prompting detectives to scour the surveillance footage for any signs of the pair. However, as they reviewed the recordings, they found no evidence of anyone matching Duxbury's description entering or exiting the building. Under the guise of clearing his name, detectives asked Duxbury to undergo a polygraph test, and he readily agreed, insisting he had nothing to hide. However, the results were damning. Every single question related to Sasha's sexual assault and murder indicated deception. It was a devastating failure for him. As investigators reviewed the results, their attention was drawn to fresh abrasions on Duxbury's arms, which seemed suspiciously like bite and scratch marks. The marks were photographed and added to his file, only deepening the suspicions that were rapidly growing against him. When portions of the security footage were made public, the 2 girls who had shared a ride with Sasha that night stepped forward, corroborating Duxbury's account. Although many details of his story were still under scrutiny, detectives now knew he was blending truth with lies. While they lacked the evidence to charge him immediately, they were certain it was only a matter of time before they would. To eliminate other possible suspects, investigators interviewed Sasha's former boyfriends, including Ben, who had attempted to reach her after the early morning text, only to be met with voicemail. Determined to assist in any way they could, Sasha's past and present boyfriends all willingly provided DNA samples. As none of their DNA matched that of the killer, they were gradually ruled out as suspects. Even the tenant who had helped Sasha into the building the night of her death was tested and cleared. Then, 3 days after Sasha's body was discovered, the breakthrough detectives had been waiting for arrived. Fingerprints found on the toilet seat and Sasha's chest were positively matched to Stephen Duxbury. With the evidence against him growing stronger, he was called back in for another round of questioning. Detectives, careful not to reveal their hand, casually asked Duxbury if he had ever been inside Sasha's apartment for any reason. Unaware that his DNA had already been found at the crime scene, he firmly denied knowing her and claimed he had never been inside her residence. Although the detectives could tell he was lying, they held off on confronting him, waiting until they had enough evidence for a solid case. With calm professionalism, they informed Duxbury that he was free to leave. However, in their minds, they knew it wouldn't be long before his freedom would come to an end. Exactly 1 week after Sasha's brutal murder, detectives executed a search warrant on Duxbury's home and cell phone. Though he had attempted to cover his tracks by resetting the device to factory settings, Forensic experts managed to recover the erased data. What they found revealed a chilling glimpse into the mind of a predator. Among his search history was a query from 5 a.m. about how to bypass a quickset digital lock, exactly like the one on Sasha's front door. Adding a disturbing layer to the timeline, just 12 minutes later, Sasha had sent a half-finished text message attempting to contact her boyfriend, but never completing the thought before the violence overtook her. On October 30th, 2015, Stephen Duxbury, the very security guard entrusted with the safety of the Uptown Place apartments, was arrested and charged with the horrifying crimes of burglary, sexual assault, and first-degree murder. It would be 2 long years before his trial began in November 2017, filled with delays, legal hearings, and jury selection. When the trial finally commenced, one of the key witnesses called by the prosecution was medical examiner Dr. Gary Utz, who painstakingly described the extent of Sasha's brutal injuries to the court, leaving a powerful impact on the jury. Dr. Gary Utz's testimony left the courtroom in stunned silence as he described the brutal attack on Sasha, revealing that she had been sexually assaulted, viciously beaten, and strangled to death. His examination also uncovered disturbing marks on her inner thighs, consistent with the type of belts worn by security guards and utility workers, an eerie detail that pointed directly to Duxbury's uniform. Despite the lack of witnesses from the defense, they attempted to spin an absurd narrative, suggesting that someone else had murdered Sasha after a consensual encounter with Duxbury. The implausibility of this claim was glaring, especially considering Duxbury's repeated denials of ever entering her apartment. In a chilling attempt to discredit the victim, the defense suggested that Sasha's tragic end came from an encounter with one of her boyfriends after a supposed rough sex session, following her consensual meeting with Duxbury. This tactic, all too common in cases of sexual assault and murder, sought to tarnish Sasha's character at every turn. While the prosecution acknowledged that Sasha had been drinking that evening, they made it clear that this did not excuse her victimization. She was simply a young woman who had paid a steep price for the privilege of living in her apartment, unaware that the very place she considered home would become the scene of her brutal betrayal by someone she trusted. The prosecution argued that Duxbury, a calculated predator, had preyed upon Sasha when he realized she was alone that evening. Using his knowledge of the building's security system, he unlawfully accessed her apartment, where he brutally assaulted and killed her in her bed. Despite the defense's attempts to shift the blame, the overwhelming evidence told a clear and undeniable story. After 7 days of gripping testimony, the case was handed over to the jury on November 21st. They deliberated for just 4 hours before returning a verdict, guilty on all charges. In the end, the jury saw through the defense's attempts to distort the truth, and Duxbury was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for the horrific sexual assault and murder of Sasha Samsudean. An additional 15 years was added for the burglary charge, ensuring that his crime would not go unpunished. Though satisfied with the verdict, Sasha's parents were deeply troubled by the horrific events that had unfolded at the Uptown Place apartments, a place their daughter had chosen for its supposed enhanced security. Struggling to come to terms with the series of failures that had ultimately led to Sasha's death, they took action in 2017. Determined to seek accountability, they filed civil lawsuits against both the Uptown Place Condominium Association and the security company responsible for the building's safety. In addition, they pursued legal action against the manufacturers of the keypad lock that Duxbury had easily bypassed, hoping to shed light on the vulnerabilities that had contributed to their daughter's tragic fate. Amid the ongoing legal battle against the building's management and security company, shocking revelations surfaced from the proceedings. It was discovered that during his brief time as a security guard, numerous residents had filed complaints against Duxbury, accusing him of abusing his authority, with some even claiming he had harassed them. In 2019, Duxbury's attorneys filed an appeal, challenging the use of his polygraph results in court, particularly his knowledge of Sasha's manner of death before it was made public. However, their request for a retrial was swiftly denied. Now, Stephen Duxbury resides at the Graceville Correctional Facility in Jackson County, Florida, where he will remain for the rest of his life, paying the price for his monstrous crimes. The heartbreaking and senseless murder of Sasha Samsudean left a profound impact on her family, friends, and the entire Orlando community. A young woman whose spirit shone with kindness, love, and positivity was taken from this world far too soon, creating an irreplaceable void in the lives of those who cherished her. Sasha's narrative is not just one of tragedy, it stands as a powerful call to action, a poignant reminder of the necessity for vigilance and safety in our everyday lives. Her untimely death illuminated the urgent need for enhanced security measures, heightened personal awareness, and stronger protections for those who are most vulnerable, particularly in spaces where they should feel secure. Though Sasha's life was cruelly cut short, her memory endures in the hearts of all who knew and adored her. Let her story inspire us to treasure every moment, look out for one another, and relentlessly advocate for justice and safety in her honor. Rest in peace, Sasha Samsudin. Your light will forever shine bright, and you will never be forgotten. If you found this video compelling, leave a like and your thoughts in the comments. Be sure to subscribe and watch our other videos.